Hello, my name is Tim from Digital Signage Explored and welcome to another episode. A slightly unusual episode, we don't have a guest with us today, but what I did want to do is deep dive into an industry that I'm somewhat familiar with. We did one of these around education and it was really well received, so I think automotive is one of those where digital signage just makes a huge amount of sense. And I happen to have some experience with how the automotive industry works. So what I wanted to highlight today is some of the values and how that can help you when it comes to engaging with your customers, especially when we're looking at more of these luxury brands, the BMWs, the Land Rovers, the Jaguars, etc. So what I wanted to walk you through is where digital signage can fit in that ecosystem and what value it can bring. But the whole focus is going to be about communication and brand because that's what you're trying to get across to that customer base that you have. So let's start off with a little bit about me. So I've had 9 years in digital signage so far, all the way from kind of sales to pre-sales to post-sales to now marketing. And in that time, I've had a lot of experience with customers and their requirements from a technological perspective, but also from what they're looking to achieve. I also, before that, I spent a bit of time in the automotive industry. I used to work at BMW a long time ago now, but I was kind of taken in from a sales perspective to understand what customers need and understand that process. And what I learned through working with luxury brands is there's a whole amount of focus on the brand recognition and what that brand represents to the people that are purchasing from you. I also spent a bit of time at a company called Hotel Chocolat, which is a very high brand luxury chocolate company, which actually has a very similar mentality when it comes to who they're speaking and who they're communicating and who they're selling to. So to break that down, let's go into where digital signage can fit. I've put together 3 areas that I think are of most value. There are other elements to this, but I think this is where the core hits. So experience, how the customer feels about your brand, how they feel walking into your showroom, how they feel after purchasing a vehicle. Then there's sales, obviously the sales process, the education, the engagement, the learning, exploring how the vehicle might fit, boot sizes, all that kind of stuff. Then finally you've got the after sales, the support. Arguably one of the most important part about having customer retention is about having an amazing support experience. So let's walk through these and see how they work. So to start off with, when we break those down, I want to have a look at how we show the dream, then I want to look at how we show the product, and then how we support our customers once they've purchased. So step 1 is sharing your voice. Obviously there's probably a whole plethora of videos that you've got available to yourself that has been high production value, and it's more about the messaging of who your customer is, what their experiences are, what their dreams, what their aspirations are. Typically those videos are not just about the car, it's about where they're located, what the person's doing, what their experience is. It might even go down to kind of what their job role is and who they are from your kind of USP or your persona that you've chosen. So from a digital signage perspective, taking all of this information and making sure that's emulated and the message is received across the buyer experience can be impactful in the way that they understand what they're buying. They're not just buying metal, they're not just buying wheels, they're not just buying a steering wheel, they're purchasing that brand experience. And using digital signage to resonate that voice better really, really helps. So things like, if I go on to the next slide here, so things like entranceways, you're going in, you're intrigued and looking and trying to understand a little bit more about the product, and you see these experiential videos running, it adds to that value. The other place is waiting rooms. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but waiting rooms can have a huge amount of impact based on things like what does your potential prospect customer believe that your brand is about, and what is the experience of being on site. And then there's actually staff areas as well. From my experience when I was working at BMW, there was a huge commitment to training and kind of adding that value to the employee's perspective as well. They should understand just as much, if not more, than the customer, what the value is of the product they're selling and what kind of person might be walking through that door and what their aspirations are. The other piece as well when we talk about digital signage is controlling the narrative. Controlling is a strong word, but it is what we're doing in essence. So we've got your customer, they've walked through the doors, they've seen the experiential digital signage, they've seen the vehicles, maybe the content's aligned next to the vehicle so they can learn a little bit more about the product. But then they're also going to go sit down in a waiting room. There's going to be a period of time where they're waiting for a moment, whether that be for an after-sales perspective or whether that be waiting for a sales representative to come over and speak to them. And then you've got this opportunity to build more value into that experience. Now, obviously, we want to do a couple of things in this experience. We want to add to the branding. So we want to take the content or customize content to add to that value. When you're sitting on the screen, they're always engaged, they're always learning. they're very, intently there for one reason reason only. And the other one is reducing the perceived wait time. We can't do much about the wait time itself, but maybe what we can do is add some information or add some experience to that waiting area. So you typically have a coffee machine or something, but you could also have a screen that's running the latest news. You can have a digital signage screen where an element of your screen is running, BBC News or something, whereas the other areas is showing an RSS ticker of information. You've got calendar, weather, clocks, whatever might be useful to them. But as well as that, you can add your branding. You can customize that so it feels bespoke to that customer's experience. The other one is avoiding competitor content, to be frank. You've obviously got, if you've got a TV screen in your waiting room and you're just running whatever terrestrial TV or cable TV comes on, there's a potential that a competitor's video could turn up, which is never the best experience when you're sitting in a waiting room for X brand and Y brand turns up. And then finally, upsell. They might be waiting for their vehicle to be finished on their service, and it happens to be that they're very close to time of their 3 years are up and they need to upgrade. Why not show the latest products are available? What vehicles are new in stock? What do you have on stock on site? It doesn't have to be generic. It could be really customized to your location to be very, very hyper-focused. Here's the latest new vehicles in. We have a beautiful forest green with cream leather interior. It's very unique and bespoke, and that's on the lot ready to go today. You can promote that right to that person sitting there who could potentially be that next customer. The other area is around education, and this is actually a really big piece that you could build into further exploration. One of the companies that we work with quite regularly is a company called Nextmosphere. They're actually sitting right behind me here. They do a lift and learn experience where I can lift up a product and then the content on the screen will change. And as I was thinking about this from a vehicle perspective, automotive perspective, is how nice would it be to have a range of the car keys from different vehicles all lined up. So if you picked up the car key, the video would display a little bit more about that vehicle, what the USPs are and what the value is. All of that could be built into your waiting area just to add a little bit more interactivity, and they can learn and engage as they go through. The other element as well when we're talking about engagement is touchscreen. There is the ability to have touchscreen content where you could interact and engage. Maybe you've got your own user interface on your webpage already that you can go and customize colors and have that visible. You can actually just take that entire webpage and just have it on a touchscreen and deliver that experience next to the vehicle itself. So people can start self-engaging and learning before you even have a salesperson available. The other element that I wanted to talk about is the personal touch. And this one I think is really, really important. When we worked at BMW, there would be, you'd go and buy flowers, a bottle of champagne for the person that support the vehicle, and that would be kind of the presentation. Thank you very much for your custom. Please take these as a gift. But I've also seen some really incredible experiences with, rotating floors that are showing the latest purchased vehicle, ready for the customer to come and collect it. And the idea that you could have a set of templates, which would be very easy to create with, the image of the product that they've just bought in its highlight, or maybe even a product video, and then just a simple text area where you can go and update that and say, thank you very much for your custom, John, or Sarah, or George, or whoever it might be. And that experience, again, that brand alignment of feeling like you're valued as a customer. There's not an end to that sales process. You've bought into that ecosystem and you're going to be taken care of. And I think being able to do something like that can sound like it's going to be a lot of work, but the way that digital signage is today, you can actually give this to the salespeople and just say, here's your template, type in the name of the person, the rest will be managed for you. So really, really talking about adding value in the simplest way that doesn't take away from your day-to-day, but adds a huge amount of perceived value to your customers. Finally, and the last piece I want to talk about is after sales. And logistically, there's a lot more going on in after sales typically than the sales room because there's a huge amount of information that you need to pass on. So things like stock availability, things like your schedule for services and maintenance and who's coming in for what. Being able to communicate that, A, to the customers. So if you're standing at the service desk, you might have a ticketed list of who's in today or just maybe by first name and what the vehicle is. So they've got, they can walk in and say, that's me. I know I've got a booking at 11 o'clock. That's made me feel comfortable. I know that I'm going to get seen. The other piece around that is actually behind the desk itself. So within digital signage, what you can do now is take your SharePoint, Power BI, whatever service you're using to manage this system, and actually have that integrated so it delivers into the digital signage only on specific screens that maybe aren't available or visible to customers themselves. So think about your break rooms or think about behind that service area where you've got your kind of the brain is working. Screens up there displaying latest product availability, what's short on stock, what needs to be purchased, what needs to be bought in. Just constant reminders to the service team, what is the next action that we need to take. And it also can then display integrations to Google Calendars or Office 365, and you can have your day or week schedule displaying in the actual mechanic bays so they know what's coming up next as their workload. And having all of that automated from pre-existing systems makes things much more streamlined. That goes one further as well. So we're talking about this from a service perspective, but if you're using your sales dashboards or you've got sales metrics, I know how incredibly important those numbers are in the automotive industry, making sure we're hitting those numbers, making sure we're getting in front of people at the right time. Being able to have a dashboard that's constantly visible for performances, for key metrics, for leaderboards, whatever you want to do. You can also gamify that. We've had some really incredible experiences in the past where they've kind of gamified the whole experience. Photos of the sales staff team, so when they're at the very top of the list, they turn up. We've got a great connection with a company called ScreenFeed, using ScreenFeed Connect, that could custom build all of that for you, or you can build it yourself if you've got the technical know-how. And again, it just adds, that's the brand value from the sales team's perspective, kind of feeling like you're part of this integrated workforce and you're being recognized for the achievements that you're delivering. And that's kind of a high level, top to bottom, of how I see digital signage working in the automotive industry. If you haven't already looked at this for the first time, feel free to reach out to us. We can kind of guide you through this experience. You've obviously got your 3 core pieces. You've got your hardware, so your device that's actually running all of the content. You've got the content itself, and then you have the CMS, and that's the Signage Live portion of that. And hopefully that adds some intrigue to your experience you're kind of exploring right now. Do feel free to reach out to us. More than happy to have a conversation about that. But I'd love to get your feedback on where do we see value and where do you see points in which you want to engage with your customers to add either a brand message or whether it's just to make their experience easier. Thanks very much. Hopefully this has been interesting to you. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on this, so do feel free to leave any comments. Again, this has been Digital Signage Explored. We're trying to create a community of individuals that are sharing knowledge around digital signage in whatever form that takes, so whether that's by vertical, by solution, by individual, or by company. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at signagelive.com. Otherwise, please do follow us along at Digital Signage Explored, and obviously you can find that wherever you're watching this, whether that be YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, wherever you need to find us. We'll speak to you again on the next one. Thanks very much.